Anton Newcombe of the Bryan Jonestown fucking massacre. Thank you so much for being here.
Supplies.
Fuck yeah. How's it being back in San Francisco?
It's weird, I guess when I moved here when I was young, that's kind of an escape, and you're escaping to your life if you're like a teenager or something, you jump from the nest. But I spent a lot of time when I was here figuring out how I could escape.
Yeah.
So I was reflecting about that a little bit.
And you did escape.
Because you're sitting there and you're like here again, and you're like, did I escape? What if I escaped? What did I do? Because I did do a lot. I did have a lot of time trying to figure out how to make what I wanted to have happen here,
Do you feel like you did that?
Well, the funny thing about it is you never know what you can really do. Like you set your mind to accomplishing a goal, but you don't really know what you're capable until some random stuff happens, or like for instance, the big thing in my life was I was in New York drunk one time, and the Frank Sinatra song New York came on.
Yeah, of course.
If you can make it here, and I was like living in Manhattan, and I thought, this place really sucks. I never thought about it. I could actually go anywhere and live on the planet. I'm leaving now.
That's
right. That's when I moved to Europe. But it never occurred to me that was something I could do.
Wow. And you're in Berlin now.
Yeah.
What's the music scene like there?
Well, going back to San Francisco, it's another interesting story. When I was a teenager, I had this friend, Damon, and he was very cool. And eventually at a party, he hooked up with some like Lufthansa airline stewardesses or something, and he's like, okay, I'm moving to Heidelberg, Germany. And then a little bit later, he's like, Anton, you have to move here. You have to move to Germany, So I was like, I'm going to flip a coin. And if it's, heads, I'm going to go to San Francisco. And if it's tails, I'll go to Germany. So it's so funny that I ended up there, anyway.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You made it out. And you like it, yeah?
Yeah, nobody bothers me, so.
Anonymity?
Yeah, it's really weird to be in a city that large, and I could be walking in a forest, it wouldn't matter, I'm completely invisible, and nothing bothers me, so it's really like a decent, calm place for me to just have my life.
That sounds wonderful. And your life consists of writing music so constantly.
Yeah, it seems dull because sometimes I think about things like I'm really aware. If you look at people like Paul McCartney or people of that era, of my parents' era and the 60s, right? I remember when in the 80s, when they sort of tried to do their things again. So there was Kink songs, and Paul McCartney's doing this stuff, and everybody's trying to do this thing. So that was 20 years after that, and I could see clearly 20 years after that they were old people. Yeah. So it's clear to me they're 20 years older than me. Like, this is the next 20 years that I have to decide what to do with my life, and do I want to just like, I'm going to go just live in a jungle or something, or do I want to just carry on doing what I'm doing? But I think I enjoy this. So.
I would certainly say so.
Yeah.
You are most definitely prolific in your work. You've written so much, and songs just kind of continuously seem to come to you. Do you have, is there a process to it, or does it just kind of happen inside your mind?
Well, it's really strange in a lot of things, like sports or playing drums, right? You're an athlete, and so a fair number of people, they can't explain to you how they do what they do. So you could pick anybody, Lamont, James, or something. I'm not a sport guy, right?
Sure.
It's not like they can explain to you how they're the number one person, right? But everybody else has to work really hard at what they do,
right.
And that's all it is. So I'm one of those people, but also I can effortlessly do things. So I don't take it I don't take it for granted. I always put it down, and I'm forced to sort of pick it back up again. And that's very difficult because I only have examples of people getting worse at some point in their life, you know, or
Yeah,
giving
sure.
up, you know. So I ever expect that I'm going to be able to do something, you know. But I think the key to it is that you don't give up, you know.
No, absolutely. It's consistency. And there are a lot of great painters, a lot of great visual artists who have, you know, a golden period later in their life too. And it's just the key is consistency.
Yeah, but also there's certain people. Yeah, I know it's possible that the people like Ennio Morricone and stuff, they could be vital till their 80s and all this other stuff, you know. And then there's people that kind of make a mockery of what they do. Like I don't know why the Rolling Stones specifically are playing, besides they like it, I guess, you know.
Sure.
But it's kind of this weird thing, you know.
Yeah, it brings them joy, but
It's not the same thing as like Howlin' Wolf starting when he was like 60 or something, and like what he was trying to accomplish, or you know.
yeah,
To me.
absolutely. That makes sense. Now, take me back to when you were younger. When did you figure out that this was going to happen, that this was the life for you?
Well, I really like playing music. I never had a goal of saying, wow, music's going to get me this like mansion or millions or models and cars and money and, you know. But I thought if there's bands like the Minutemen and all these guys, at a certain point, there's like some punk bands, you know,
Yeah.
and the Meat Puppets and stuff. And it'd be like three guys in a van touring America, and they're pulling like 90 grand a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everywhere they go, they could get 400 people, 500 people every night of the week, everywhere they go. And I thought when I was young, if I could do that, I'd be really happy. You know, if I could go anywhere and people knew about it or something. But it was never like, oh my God, Nirvana sold 10 million records. That's what I got to be, or something. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
And there's something about seeing that stuff when you're younger too, the kind of energy, like people breaking things and pushing each other. Sometimes it's because they have no other way to express like what they're absorbing.
Well, it is really weird. You know, when we started playing, people would flip tables and stuff, and it had nothing to do with violent or this vandalism or anything. It's like a release when this stuff is happening. You know, that people are just like, they go nuts, and it's also because the music it's quieter. It's usually quieter than what we're used to, where people just react to like a thing.
Yeah.
Like garage music is like at a very manageable level. Even when it's at its most intense, it draws you in because it's not really hurting you. Where I think like in crazy like techno and metal and stuff, it's like people are they're either like resisting it, like, you know, metal people are banging their head, or they're getting completely lost in like how big it is, you know.
Yeah.
Like all the low ends at every single club, they're just like sucking you into this thing.
Right.
It doesn't have a lot of content, but it affects you. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely affects you, and that's why people continue to go to it, but it can elicit that feeling. It can draw it out of you. What were some bands that did that for you when you were younger? You mentioned a few just now.
Well, I mean, I loved all of the 60s stuff, but the way it was presented and so big as a phenomena, I never really got a sense that I could play music by listening or watching clips of any band. So the Beatles, those guys never showed me that I could be a musician, because you can't be those people. You can't be Paul McCartney, right? But when I saw punk bands play, then I knew these are people just playing music. And in the way that it started post-punk and new wave and goth and everything, just like bleeding out of just the fact that you could just be yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it started even like New Romantic. It's like a slice off of this punk thing. It's like, yeah, okay, we don't need permission. This is this thing. So all that was influential to me. But the thing that is, when you're trying to be in bands, you know, and your friends are really good, but you have to like write lyrics to people's bad ideas, and that forced me to sort of the two things. Like when I moved to San Francisco, there was no band playing music that I like who would have me in a million years in their band. So I literally had to like teach my friends how to play as fast as I could teach myself something,
Yeah.
Like, you're a great person, you have to play bass, or, no,
Totally.
you have to play tambourine. You're perfect. And my friend Mara Kegel, who's from here, she just had this, like Marlene Dietrich low voice, and I was like, I have to write this song, and we sing it, and she's like, yeah, but I actually have a really good voice, but my voice is up here. I'm like, no, your voice is this really low, gravelly talking thing, and that's what you're going to do. And people love that An Enemy. I mean, they really love that song,
Yeah, they do.
So,
Absolutely.
but it was funny because she's arguing with me. That's not my voice. I'm like, Mara, this is exactly your voice, like singing, but you're just projecting, like that's who you are, are one of the things, right?
That's so cool.
Yeah, very funny.
That's so cool that you could kind of pick and choose, and clearly you have such a talent for hearing what elements of a song need to happen and what elements in someone's playing, someone's singing, and someone's musicality should shine through. So I'm glad that you gave us a little insight into that story. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what are some artists that you like that are happening right now? Is there anything that you think is particularly noteworthy?
I really like the Sound Carriers. They're from the UK.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, and I'm friends with some of those people, and they're really good people.
Fuck
and
yeah.
I like that. I don't know. There's a million people I guess I like. I'm really focused though, and there's like a economy of time. I mean, I could be listening to other people's music or making my own music. I've been doing soundtrack work. I just did a whole television show with my friend Dot Allison. She's a Scottish artist, and then we did a record. So, besides that, I have like thousands of records, and I can kind of keep my mindset in the same. It's weird, like alpha wave generator, like a dream machine.
Yes.
And my whole month becomes like a day, because I'm just listening to the same music, doing similar things, taking a nap, and going back to work and doing whatever.
It's a cycle, but a productive one.
Yeah.
At that. Now, I saw you in 2018 at Bimbo's 365.
Yeah.
2 nights in a row.
Mm.
And I remember
The first night was so good.
the first night was so good. It was incredible.
I swear those guys poisoned me. I had some people, there was some like weird crap going on in my group, and
Fuck.
they're like, I started like coughing up black bile, which is like a symptom of like your liver just going, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he's like doing heroin. I was with my friend who's 76 all day. We were just sitting there, and they're like telling my people in the UK that aren't there, like, oh, he's just on drugs. But they sort of just picked me up in a blackout, right, and just put me there. So that wasn't cool. You know
Not
what I
at
mean? You know what I'm saying? It's like just generally bad people. Anybody else would have just went like, oh my God, this person's sick. They need a doctor or what have you.
Yeah.
So, but I thought the first show was excellent.
First show was excellent.
know?
It really was. It was.
There's nothing you could do, and last night was a little bit of a train wreck. I thought.
Why do you say that?
Well, the amount of focus, like to pull things back together, it's so easy on certain days for everybody just to feel beat.
Yeah.
And you see it in any activity, right?
Yeah.
Even going to work, like some days you're just like, how am I even going to get through this? Or it doesn't matter what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Just being very off. And I was very mad at some of the people that work at that place.
How
It
you
was like after we got done playing, I'm out back, and I light up a cigarette, and they're like, you can't smoke anywhere inside this gate, and I was like, so you want me to stand in front of like 50 people trying to get my attention and have a cigarette in the rain, and I just did this, and I'm like, I can't believe you guys. And then they get aggressive, you know. This giant bouncer guy like gets up from a chair like he's gonna hit me, and I was like, sit the fuck back down, you know. Like literally, I just said, sit back down. I will butcher you, because it was so silly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You know,
that's
like
absolutely
he's playing
ludicrous.
this role for this like
he's playing a role.
What is it, $11 an hour security guard or whatever it is, but he's like playing this role, and I just said, man, seriously, you need to figure out which rules you need to break in this world, and this, you know, and which ones you should keep, right?
Yeah.
This is one of those rules that you can bend. You know,
100%.
Me smoking right here is one of those rules.
That's one of those rules.
Yeah. It's like, you know.
Man.
But,
how are you feeling about tonight?
Well, I can only try my best, right? I hope it'll be okay.
No, it'll be amazing.
Yeah. You never know, but I think it should be good, and we're looking forward to seeing Joel either today or tomorrow. Hopefully he's rested up.
Hell yeah.
Because it's great to have everybody together, you know?
Yeah.
He's better at tambourine than Shay.
All right.
Yeah, weird stuff was happening last night, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was like pissed because like I see somebody smoking like a weed vape or something, and they're like in the best mood, dressed nice, you know, but not playing right. Like, I'm so ready to bring this rock and roll, and I was just like, what, is this like a fashion show, or what are you doing? Like, you actually have to pay attention. But that happens. This is not what I'm into. That's it. I hardly even look at anybody in the audience.
No.
Ever.
No. You're purely sound.
So, I mean, I don't care about my hair or anything, you know. I just want to play well for everybody.
Yeah. Well, you're motivated by the music. Other people are motivated by a lot of different things.
It's a folk experience. See, we're all coming together,
yes.
and we all really want this to happen. And certain activities in this world are about perceptions of time and how you can control the elasticity of time. You know.
Yeah.
There isn't one real time, but you know, you set up the situation, and hopefully everybody really enjoys it. It's because it seems like people need this so much, you know, that
absolutely, after everything, especially the past few
pandemic,
years, existential pandemic.
You can't be close anymore, right? You can't go out.
Right.
It's something invisible. It's like, oh, Meta's gonna be so bitching, you know, like. But
when you take away everything and replace it with that, you know, you're not left with anything reminiscent of the human experience. Everyone is starved for that at the moment.
Found the closest, you know, it's like you're born and they put you on
your mother's chest.
Yeah, you know,
that's
it's
right.
like so that's it's the only thing that we are. You know, there's no like one person that can live by themselves.
No one.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's very difficult, I think.
Yeah.
Like, some freak lives in Alaska by themselves, you know, in the sticks, but it's very, very difficult, you know.
Yeah.
But
everybody craves that to some extent.
I thought last night was interesting, you know, when you have to like tell people, even the audience, you're like, I'm stopping this, or you need to be quiet, and this is why, you know, because I just want it to be better for you. You know,
it's like, for your sake,
you know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't even need to explain it, but this is why you need to stop and tune this guitar, because 5 minutes of in tune will be better than 5 minutes with 12 strings out of tune. So, you know, and it seems unprofessional, but it's
really not.
It's more reality, you know.
Yeah, it's the reality of live performance.
It's reality.
Yeah.
Well, different people have that down to different levels of expertise, and that's, you know. It's not my primary focus in life. It's like Beck and Radiohead can never make better sounding records than the last few records. They could play all the different ways in the world, but they can't make a better sounding record. They can just make a different record.
Yeah.
And so I never even cared about fidelity that way, you know, because I have so much headroom. I could go into any direction.
Yeah.
It's not about this, like, this is perfectly produced and perfectly recorded at Abbey Road, you know. It's just like, press record. Let's make things.
Yes.
And let's make things better, and it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I was explaining to some people last night. We were having a conversation. It just said, Americans have this thing that other people don't have, which is we love underdogs and we love comebacks. And you can have 3 businesses and crash and burn all the way and still just make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't do that in other places.
No.
And it's really cool that it's like the only thing left that's really cool, I think.
About America, about the American experience.
Yeah, because it isn't even about capitalism, even though it is. But it's just knowing that, you know, there's that possibility that you got an idea or the way you want it done.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, and that you're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. And other people, they don't have that in their spirit.
Yeah.
Like if the door wasn't open for them, or they weren't like top of their class or something, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to happen.
That's right.
Doesn't matter what it is, you know?
Yeah. But here, in a way, in a sense, if you're given the opportunity and you fail and you fail and you fail, you still have the chance. We love the underdog story.
Yeah.
That's true, absolutely.
That's the best thing, I think, that the best side of America that people should show other people somehow. But see, people have so many mixed up concepts about what successes are, what's important. You know, if you're quantifying things just by money,
No.
you miss all that insight about, you know.
What does success mean to you?
It just means, on a personal level,
Yeah.
it's a meaningless word for me. I'm trying to grasp like what it means. It's not important. I don't think it's important to even take stock of what you are, what you do, or what you've done. You know.
Yeah.
I think. I don't ever think about it.
I think that's a good way to keep going and to continue, as if you don't think about it in that way, if you don't define it quite.
Well, I just think about wanting to play and trying to just stay exactly the same my whole life. and the world is getting more nuts, you know? Like when I was a little kid, at a certain point, I think I was 6, I was looking at everybody and thinking, why is everybody unhappy? Oh, it's because they're not doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
And then they're just taking it out on everybody.
That's right.
You know? And then I was like, okay, I'm never going to grow up, and I'm not going to be like anybody I've ever looked at in my life. I'll just be myself,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's my only goal, is never forgetting that.
That's beautiful. One thing I wanted to ask you about from the Bimbo 365 show is I remember you went on a pretty cool rant about San Francisco. I'm born and raised here.
Oh, really?
And I haven't left. Yeah, there's not a lot of us left. But you had some choice words, and I wanted to ask you now, not much time has passed, but what do you think happened to San Francisco?
Well, there were successive waves of like this kind of city planning, you know? I think after World War II, the African American community, that was the first time they were let into the docks and that whole industry of the union. And that led to everybody buying houses and to the thriving communities like in Fillmore and Hunters Point and all these different places, right? But then there was no jobs after that. So you had like a generation of like middle class Americans then with kids like into this like urban reality. And they just took turns like punching holes and all that stuff. And the thing that really is obvious to me, even with the tech and the money explosion in the Bay Area, is this place had 13.5% African Americans, right?
Yeah.
But like a 2%,
Tech work.
yeah, employment rate for those people.
That's right.
So the tech industry isn't open. It's because you can't say that there's no coders that are black. Or, there's nobody qualified to be what? It doesn't matter on any level, right?
Yeah.
Any job you can think of it, and it just shows you right there. It's like, here's the community, but here's like the actual demographic, right, of the people employed, and you're just like, okay, well, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
And but it's crazy. Like for a long time in Berlin, when I moved there was no ATMs or anything. They didn't accept credit cards on the east side or any of that stuff, right? And now, I mean, there's like a bazillion of them. There's Tesla pop-up stores and all that stuff. But I really liked, even when I started moving there, people were like, oh, all these outsiders are coming, and then some old people can't afford their rent. Rents are going up from this to that. And I was like, no, it's so cool to see old people and babies on the same street endlessly. To me, it represented that the city was alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
when you
I do.
see that really happening, then you're like, okay, this is actually a real community that I can live
community.
in. It's like women, children, old people, young people, businesses, like people with their dream business, whatever. It's delicatessen, it doesn't matter, right? Record shop. But everything's happening at once. That's when it's alive, and that's not what happened here. And you can't have everybody commute. And
No.
It's just bizarre, you know what I mean?
You've lost a lot of the community, the communal spirit, the ability to share, and
just that I don't know. Portland's even crazier. I just can't believe that stuff.
Really?
Looks like Chile now. They've just like RVs on the side of the freeway. People are just camping out like sort of Breaking Bad style. It's like off the hook, wooden tarp house, just speed freak jungle. This is like crazy. I can't understand all that stuff.
No.
Like there could be this much money and people don't have a solution. Like in Germany, their goal is to get you back at like square one level to support yourself.
Yeah.
So psychiatry, welfare, everything is just like no. You can't slack, but this is a full focus on like getting you back into the community.
Yeah.
That's the only way they deal.
I never understand how there can be so much wealth here and people can be actively stepping over the bodies of people suffering and not see the disparity and just how
it's just so crazy because you want all the communities. The best things about San Francisco is like your little bookstore and cafe that's close to your house and park, and you know everybody. Those kind of tiny little neighborhood feeling and communities. That's the only way to live, And I just thought this place was flooded with people that didn't have that. Mm. Besides, like, oh yeah, I'm gainfully employed in this demographic, and this is the bar that I go to, and these are the restaurants, or whatever it is, right? This is the hiking trail in the Mid Headlands that I do, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But community, that's what I missed. That's what I thought that San Francisco was devoid of, became devoid of. To me, I mean, there are still people that do things together, but to me it just seems like a haunted show.
I'm being told that we're going to have to wrap up soon. Are
Good.
there any upcoming shows or releases that you'd like to promote here on today's show?
Well, shows. I mean, we're playing tonight at the Fillmore, and releases. I have a lot of music coming out. We have an album called Fire Doesn't Grow on Trees. And there'll be another album later this year.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Anton Newcombe of the Bryan Jonestown Massacre, for coming in today to Psyched Radio San Francisco and talking with us. I'm Scarlett, and you're going to keep it tuned into Psyched Radio San Francisco. We got a lot of good things coming up for you.
Keep it plastic.